What's up, guys? So after 6 months of me just continuing to rack my brain on why our team can't get better, I think I finally figured it out. So what I want to do, I'm going to share with you exactly a framework that I just developed. I think I finished in the shower, actually, on how you can infinitely get better at anything you want. So stay tuned. All right, guys, so here's what we're going to do. I'm going to break down this framework for you just in the simple steps it takes and just tell you a little bit about it so you understand. So step one is you want to figure out where your area of focus is. So like, let's just do like a salesperson, for example. So maybe they're getting better at converting their deals, right? Next up is we got to figure out what our desired outcome looks like. So how can you measure yourself in order to get this desired outcome, right? So what I'm looking to do is figure out some kind of metric that gives them a measurable, right? So you figure out that desired outcome. So let's say that you want to convert, 25% of your opportunities into deals. That's the outcome, the desired outcome. Next, you determine where you are right now. So let's say right now, the salesperson is closing at 20%, so that's where they are right now. So they got to go from 20% to 25% close rate. Next up, what we got to do is figure out how to get from where we are at 20% to 25%. I call this bridging the gap, but I realized it wasn't just as easy as saying bridge the gap. Now let's go into the questions that I asked myself to bridge the gap. So the first question I'm asking is, what obstacles are going to keep you from reaching your desired outcome? So this is just getting like, hey, here's my roadblocks. You uncover the roadblocks, and then next up, we're gonna solve them. So right now, let's just say my roadblocks are, I don't connect well with sellers. I'm not really able to understand what's the motivation for them wanting to actually sell and help them truly solve their problems. So maybe that's the area of focus, is needing to get better into motivation, needing to dig more, relate more, and connect more. That's what's keeping you from doing it, is not having enough rapport and not being deep enough into motivation. They're tied together. So now, what can you do in order to achieve these obstacles to get you to your desired outcome, right? So kind of like what we talked about, right? If you're struggling with getting into motivation and that's keeping you from getting a good connection and going deep into rapport with these sellers, then maybe you need to be super intentional about asking impact questions. How did that impact you? So not only just asking, how did you think about selling, but how did that impact you? And then going down that rabbit hole, right? So there's a couple lists of questions. Gino has plenty of videos on these sales questions. I'm not gonna go into the sales, I'm just going into the framework of getting better. So if your problem is getting deeper into motivation, that's your obstacle, is you're not getting deep enough into motivation. How can you get deeper? Well, asking better questions, truly caring about the seller situation. So getting deep into how this impacted them, and some other sales questions you can go find on Gino's channel about, getting more into motivation. We're just here for the simple framework and how to do it. But you do that and you be intentional about it, then that's how you're actually going to achieve what's the shortcoming you have, your obstacle. So this is the part right now that most people's limiting beliefs show up. Limiting beliefs will crush any self-improvement you can ever have. So an example of a limiting belief, I actually had this conversation yesterday when I was implementing this exact process. So I just went through all of this framework with 20 people on our team. And this is where the limiting beliefs showed up every single time, is right here. How are you going to be able to overcome this obstacle? And the reason is because people don't believe that they're truly good enough to do this, to overcome these things. They're not confident in their solutions. So for example, one of our sales guys, he told me, he's like, I'm more of an analytical person. I'm not a natural salesperson by nature. I said, bro, the only difference between you and the guys who are closing good is that they have natural sales skills, right? Let's say that. So sure, that's something that's not going in your favor. But what you do have an advantage over them is that you have the ability to analyze things at a high level. So I said, you should be going back and listening to every single call you've ever done and seeing why did it not work out. Analyze where the ball dropped. If you can find out where the ball dropped in every single call, and every single time you do that, you find one thing you can improve on, then you're gonna be 10 times better than these guys, because you're gonna become a machine. And they're gonna all be jealous. And then that's gonna be something you're gonna be super proud of, because you're not a sales guy, but you're the best sales guy on the team because you're able to utilize your talent and your skills in the right way. Next up is the part that most people fail at, is implementation. And this is the big part. It's not really like even something you do right now, it's something you do every day. I like to say, hey, I'm gonna be very intentional about X, Y, Z, because it's gonna make me think about it every day, every call. I'm being intentional about connecting more with the seller. So being able to implement is great. But if you don't review, then you might be implementing completely wrong. So this is why we need to review our calls, review the actions that you're doing. Like, hey, is my ability to connect with sellers actually working? Am I actually doing it the right way? So you need to review yourself to see if you're getting the desired outcome you want. And that's the last part, is you got to measure your outcome, right? So since I'm measuring my close rate, I'm gonna look at that on a weekly basis and say, hey, I'm getting 10.10. I'm giving 10 offers this week. I better dang have at least 2 to 3 contracts. And over a longer period of time, of course, that will expand and be more accurate. But you got to make sure you're making progress and you're taking the right actions and your plan was correct. So that's why observing and reviewing are the biggest parts of the puzzle once you implement. So once you review these actions, it's really key just to put a time frame on when you want to achieve this desired outcome, right? So if my desired outcome is closing 25% of the deals, when do I want to have that done? I would challenge you to say, hey, if you think you can do it in 2 months, do it in 1 month. If you think you can do it in 1 month, do that stuff in 2 weeks, man. I believe in you can do it, especially if you're willing to put the work in. And so basically what this entire framework is meant to do is I believe everyone has the same ability to figure out how to get great at something. The only difference is that one, the person who doesn't get great either doesn't have enough time doing the action or they're not willing to sacrifice enough to get great at doing whatever they're trying to do. What this is meant to do is my team is committing a sacrifice by saying, I'm gonna do these actions, I'm gonna review these calls every day, and I'm gonna commit to it, and I'm gonna commit to it by this date. So they committed to making the sacrifice. So that's already knocked out of the way. The other part is committing to the timeline. The reason why the timeline horizon of people getting good is so long is because they never truly think about all the things on a very intentional basis of what's holding them back. They think about it, like you think about it and you're sure, and I do this to myself as well. I'm thinking, but I'm not really sure what's holding me back. I never really know the right problem that I'm trying to solve. So when you take the time to answer, what is stopping you from achieving your desired outcome? It's forcing you to say, hey, what is actually the problem here? And you're gonna have a lot of thought, and you might have 5 or 6 things that's doing it, but then you pair it back to the 2 or 3 that actually matter. And then you solve those, and then you implement, and then you see what happens. And that way you're not wasting your focus and wasting your time and attention on all these incorrect areas that are not gonna have the biggest needle push. They're not gonna push the needle forward as much. You don't wanna waste your time on all these areas that are not pushing the needle forward. So that's what we're doing by having the few desired locations of improvement. And yeah, just to finish this out, this is basically the framework that I've used in order to get really good at stuff super fast. I think that it never stops. So I'm gonna do this for myself on a few of the struggles that I have, because what I realize is that as you get good or get really good at stuff, you're not trying as hard to improve. So therefore you're not being as intentional with your time and your effort. So if there's really a skill that you as an entrepreneur or the business owner or a leader in the company lack, then you gotta work hard to achieve that because you're the bottleneck. And so that's what I'm trying to do as well with myself and with our team. So this is what we're doing. Hopefully it helps you.